Sup everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the questions that I've been getting the most, and of course as newer players keep coming into the game, you're going to have these questions with each update for the patch. So here at my channel we talk about characters comparisons, and we try our best here to compare them in a way that is most relevant to a general playstyle. Yes, there is no one correct answer for every account, but hopefully I can teach you the ways to analyze what you need in the game, and I can give you a truthful and versatile method to identify which character you need the most. So with the upcoming couple of patches, let's just get this out of the way, right? Kazuha is coming. It's either next patch, the patch after that, if worst case, maybe the patch after that. But there's a good shot that this character is coming back very soon. And why is there a lot of stress put on Kazuha? So Kazuha, I think I have to tell you guys first how it came to be that he became such a desirable unit. Before Kazuha, there was a unit called Venti, and Venti was the one that pretty much did what Kazuha did back then. But ever since Kazuha came out, Hoyoverse has made it more and more difficult to use Venti in a lot of scenarios. And nowadays, some people have Venti even as more of a niche unit, even though that niche is literally the entire domination of one sector for the game, which is collecting small mobs and grouping them so you can nuke them down with any sort of abilities. So Kazuha now is at the forefront for support units. Not only is he an emo, which gives him access to the 4-piece iridescent set, his entire kit is very streamlined and versatile, and also with very cheap weapon options. This character is truly the definition of what a premier support is supposed to be doing in the game. Now, if you have been paying attention and you're a newer player, I hope you understand what you're getting yourself into, because you might be looking everywhere across any tier list and Kazuha would be sitting right there at the top, being like the creme de la creme of units you should get. But understand that that is not without conditions. Kazuha is a support unit. He himself isn't going to deal the best damage you can see in the game. He can facilitate and increase the damage ceilings of other elemental based characters. So we got Raiden Shogun, Ayaka, Itto, anyone who deals elemental based damage, primarily with the exception of Anemo themselves and Geo. You can use Kazuha to additionally boost their damage by a huge chunk just using the Viridescent set. Now, if you are at the point in the game where you have no primary damage dealer, or you haven't really built up your account to that point yet, it could be said that Kazuha isn't going to provide as big of a value as if you were, let's say, already running an Ayaka or a Raiden Shogun. But now we're comparing Kazuha to the likes of Yelen, we're comparing him to the likes of Itto and Xiao as well. So now we'll think, oh, how can we compare all these random characters that functions seemingly in different roles with each other? Well, there is a way. It's to understand what your account needs. So let's say you are a beginner player. Everybody gets the same characters that are the 4 stars. You got Xiangling, right? You got Barbara, you got Amber, you got Kaya and Lisa. That's all good. But as you start to build your account upwards, what are you looking to push yourself to that next level? Taking a look at these 4 units, they each kind of benefit you in different ways. The 2 easiest ones to place right now are Xiao and Itto. These characters are actually almost identical, but one functions as a Nemo and one functions as Geo. Yes, Itto is the newer one, and he actually has a much easier time dealing with some of the problems that plagues characters from this role. So if you're looking for a unit that can pump out great damage, that you yourself can hyper invest into, just got your head focused down, choose either Xiao or Itto. I would say really you can't go wrong with either of these units. There are mechanics that you can play with Xiao, like using your elemental skill twice before using your burst to give him a little head start for energy regen. And of course with Itto, you can pair him in mono teams, which is actually encouraged to help facilitate more particles as well. Xiao is incapable of gaining additional particles during his burst skill by himself, while Itto is. However, both of them, you cannot switch out of their burst states when you're in their burst, because if you do, when you come back, you can't use their burst anymore and they already went on cooldown. So these are very typical examples of hyper carries through and through. When it comes to their value, I don't think they're going to have as big of an impact in your account compared to the other two that we're going to be talking about really soon, because the one thing that could be easily replaced in Genshin Impact is DPS units. You really don't have a lack of great DPS options. In fact, there are other DPS options that some would argue is not only higher in ceiling cap, which means their damage potential is higher, but also more enjoyable to play, which allows you to access more reactions and variety for the game. Both Xiao and Itto are incredibly strong units. Some would have them at S tier, others would have them at A tier. I think it's going to be highly debated for these two as to exactly what tier they fall in, but they are strong and solid units that can for sure carry you through the game. Now moving on to Yelen and also Kazuha. Yelen is now been defined as a somewhat support DPS, or some would even categorize her as a burst support, but she seemingly is more of a support unit as opposed to somebody who stays on field like Xiao and Itto to pump out massive damage. She actually gives you access to a couple new variations for team options, but realize that this is getting really late game. Yelen is not a unit that I would personally say is early game friendly, because Yelen as a unit has the potential to scale your damage up all the way to 50%, and this is a ramping buff starting from 1% all the way to 50, and it ticks per second. Every second you would be gaining 3%. And if you're a player who just started the game, understand 50% may mean a lot to veteran players who have like full rosters of level 90 units, but if you're running characters that are still level 70, level 80, and you're struggling to keep up with resources and farming, making new teams just to challenge Abyss, and still testing the waters, Yelen is not going to be a character that fits into your current roster very well. The main reason is because that she herself demands a lot of attention to rotations and synergy. You will not be able to draw out the full potential of Yelen because yes, it does ramp up to 50%, and you will feel that damage ramping up even if you're running a level 70 main carry. But as all things percentage, the higher the base, the higher yield you're going to get. Let's say if your character right now is dealing 10,000 damage, then by the end it's going to ramp up eventually to give you an additional 5,000 damage. But if your character is dealing 1,000 damage, then your buff at the end is only going to be 500 because your starting point was so much lower. Your yield was not as high. Now yes, you could say, well, I just need to build them up, right? Yes, but that's easier said than done. A lot of the times it's not just leveling up your units, it's leveling up your characters' artifacts as well. And artifacts, then you get into RNG, which could take you months and months if you are grinding it every day consistently. So what I'm saying essentially is Yelen is a character that is designed for veterans to continue to expand on their arsenal of units and variety playstyles. It's not designed for mid-game or early game players to kind of boost their damage, because there's a character that's actually perfect for that, which is the man you see on screen, Kazuha. Kazuha is designed through and through to facilitate damage options and elemental DPS. So Kazuha, that's why is the safest bet for everybody watching, and I'm sure a lot of you guys already know this. This is his first rerun since his release back in 1.6, and with how popular he is, one could say that HoYoverse may be hesitant to continuously rerun this character. I don't want to dwell on Kazuha for too long because I'm sure you guys already heard everything about this character, but understand, just like Yelen, this character will buff you more if you already have a very strong base output of damage. I don't think for the most part people should be stressing too much on making the best and right choice, because it really doesn't matter which one you choose. If you're a beginning player right now, you can't lose with any of these 5 stars, but if you're seeing yourself playing this game for a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years down the line, maybe making the right decision now will save you some headache, let's just say, down the line. But being smart, picking up Kazuha and then picking up Yelen on her rerun, by then you already built your characters up, you're much more aware of what you need and how rotations work, because I can guarantee you even veteran players right now are still trying to fit Yelen into different teams and figuring out her rotation. It's not easy with this character because of how many things she has in her kit. She has a charge attack, she has an elemental skill, and of course she has her ramping burst skill. not to mention her charge attack can be easily stored to be used at a later time. This puts a lot of additional stress onto proper rotations with this character. How do you start a fight? How do you swap to different characters? When should you swap to different characters? This isn't something for an early game player should be worried about, even though the buffing of your units, that ramping buff, is very enticing. I do think for the most part, for early, even mid-game players, the safer bet would be Kazuha followed by either Itto or Xiao to boost up some more DPS options if you still need that. If you're running national team, that's great. Then that means you only need one more other team, and if you already have someone like Aya, Kaganyu, Utao, Yoimiya, then maybe Xiao and Itto just don't seem as exciting for you. There's one thing I do have to tack on for Xiao and Itto, and that is for people picking Xiao, understand eventually if you want to build him up vertically, meaning get his constellations, Constellation 1 is pretty good, but Constellation 2 and 4 are very iffy until you get him to Constellation 6, and even then Constellation 6 has conditions to be activated, so it's not like this flawless perfect constellation versus Itto's constellation, which every step of the way you're getting some great value, so do keep that in mind. Itto does have Xiao beat when it comes to constellation values. Overall, I do hope I kind of explained this and broken it down for each of these characters, their strengths and weaknesses. Kazuha, for the most part, is going to be the no-brainer if you want to do the best for your account in general. And Yelen, while being very good as well, I don't think you need her immediately. I do think as you wait for her rerun, probably later this year, you'll find yourself to be much better equipped to run a character like Yelen on your team. Now, this is for mostly beginners and mid-game players. Veterans can do whatever they want, and I know a lot of veterans nowadays are still short on resources and also units, but if you are in the later games, definitely consider Yelen over Xiao and Itto, and Kazuha as well if you don't have him as well. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I wish you guys the best of luck summoning for all these characters. Until next time, which is going to be tomorrow, I urge you all to stay safe and peace. Bye.